Good Samaritans, 2109. I recently saw a news story about a Good Samaritan who was being sued for saving somebody. I believe it was in California, and ironically, the judge upheld it and is letting it go to trial. This scares the bejesus out of me. Jesus taught us to be Samaritans, to be good Samaritans. He held that up as a high example of how to be compassionate. If we are not going to live up to that standard, despite the threat of lawsuit, then Satan is won. The legal system is not to blame for this. It is the greed and misunderstanding of what a Samaritan really is. What a Samaritan is somebody who is willing to risk censure, social outcast, punishment, and debt to help other people. I'll read you the verse that is involved. This is in Luke. It's 10, 28 through 37. You have answered correctly, replied Jesus. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of all his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road. When he saw the man, he passed by on one of the sides. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring an oil and wine mix on them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return I will reimburse you any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. I think one of the things about this story is that it highlights that the Levite was a priest. The priest was also high in the religious order of the same tradition of Judaism that this man who was injured fell into. But they would have been criticized for helping him because to touch someone who might be dead made you unclean. To get blood on yourself made you unclean. To risk being attacked by the robbers who injured this man put you at personal risk if you were bent over him and they came up behind you and knocked you in the head. Maybe you didn't want to spend the money. Maybe there was, just enough for you to have a good time at this convention you were going to, and you didn't really think that you should spend any of it on this man who probably asked for it. But the Samaritan was already an outcast. He was not of the same tradition as the man who was injured. He was in a rival sect of Judaism called Samaritans. They had different traditions, but a basic idea that came from the immigration from Egypt, from the Exodus. he would have been criticized by his fellow Samaritans for touching this man, for helping him. He risked being hit over the head, same as either of the other ones would have, if he had stopped, made himself a non-moving target for maybe the robbers if they were still around. We don't know how much money he had, but he did spend a considerable amount because silver coins were of good value. They weren't as valuable as gold, but they were much more valuable than copper, which was the common coin of the area. So to leave 2 silver coins behind after caring for him all night and binding up his wounds and using his own donkey, he risked a great deal. This is the example that Jesus holds up for us, to risk a lot. Not if it's a little inconvenient, but to risk what we have to do the right thing. So I call on all of you, if you claim to be Christian, and you're a Christian in your heart, I ask you to be a good Samaritan. Even if the legal system in our courts today is saying that you might get sued, that should not be one of your criteria for whether you help somebody. If your heart is telling you this is someone you need to help, I don't care what the risks are. Help them. God bless the whole world. No exceptions. Angel Eliza.